Hey,
How are you,
what's
man?
up? Good?
Uh,
Can
okay,
you hear
I'm
me?
yeah, I hear you actually really, really good. I don't know if my AirPods will be in the same level as your
It's
studio
perfect.
setup, but yeah.
A show where we highlight creators and a wide range of media people from CrossFit and the sports industry. And today I'm joined by Héctor, aka Trust My Wad on Instagram. Man, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So actually, like today is Sunday. Usually, like I plan all these things, like I have questions written down and everything, but like I just want to have a conversation with my friend, you know?
Okay, okay,
So,
let's do that.
yeah, this is way more chill. So I just want to circle back to where we met. I think it was at Lowlands Throwdown, right?
It was I guess it was I was trying to remember this morning. I think it was 2021. I don't know if you
2022, I think,
2022.
semifinals in Amsterdam.
Okay.
And I
Okay. So
think actually, I remember the first time I saw you, I was looking for my media credentials, and we
hmm
were, and I think you, another guy, and you were waiting in the line, and I was like, hey man, like where can we get like our media credentials? You were standing behind me, and you were like, yeah, I don't know, man. They told us to go there.
yeah, maybe
Who
I yeah, yeah, go on.
who were you shooting for there?
I was shooting for like the media for the competition, but also
Mm-hmm.
for CrossFit Spain because they wanted like to highlight the Spanish athletes. So I gotta like kind of be doing both like for the competition and for CrossFit Spain. Yeah,
But it
yeah,
wasn't, it was not, was it the year where Ninka was with Alex?
yeah. They built a team with Pablo, Ninka, Ione, and Alex, and they made
Yeah.
it to the games. Actually, they were like second in Lowlands. They performed amazing. So yeah,
Yeah, I
like
remember that.
I remember enjoying that, like my work there, because like honestly, it was like the second or third competition in my life, and I was lucky enough to be in Lowlands. But also enjoying from the view of like a friend of theirs that be watching them like succeeding and being second just after the Annie's team. So it was like amazing, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw your content was when you were shooting in the gym with Ninka. Because basically, I lived in the Netherlands and I
hmm
didn't know Ninka personally back then, but I knew her through Jeremy, her ex boyfriend, who was
Yeah.
in teams with her for 3 years. And I trained at his gym. So I kind of like knew her, like, but she was living in Spain at the time. And I remember her and we had some conversations about like adapting to living in Spain when you're not Spanish and the lifestyle and people being a little bit late and like chill compared to the Netherlands where it's like all on time.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but by the way, you were on time. You were there and ready for this podcast. I'm proud of you,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, I was like I woke up today at 8:20, something something like that. And I was like really worried because like my voice is gonna be like from a sleepy guy, my face was gonna be like from a sleepy guy, but I'm on time every time. Yeah.
Yeah, bro, I love it. And the first time I saw your content was when you were filming the teams prepping
Yeah.
in the gym, and I remember a video. I think Ninka was doing some shuttle runs or something, and like you put a cool sound to it, and
Mm,
something that I love what you do is that you always think of you don't follow necessarily the trends. Um, a bit like Julian, you guys have your own you have so much imagination and so much creativity when it comes to making even simple reels.
hmm
And that's why I wanted to have you on the show as well because I mean I don't mean to kiss your ass or anything, but to me like you're one of the best photographers in Europe. Just like your pictures are so clean and smooth and like instantly if you guys check out his Instagram, you will see instantly it's a trust my wad picture. And I just yeah, and we were like you were the only people I could like speak Spanish to in the media
Yeah, I
room.
remember that. I remember that.
Um,
Actually, you were speaking French, you were speaking English, you were speaking Spanish, and I was, kind of embarrassed because also I wanted to say to this podcast, I apologize in advance to the audience because I'm probably the worst speaker, English speaker you have ever had here. So I'm trying to, speak myself in a precise way, but I cannot find the words sometimes. So, yeah, like
bro, your
going back
English
to the,
is
yeah, go ahead.
your English is fine, bro. It's really, really good. Like to be honest, like I'm French, and you and I have for a French person and a Spanish person really good English. Just 1 second.
Sure. Bless you, man.
O
I'm
como
kind of the
dimos en
same thing.
España, Jesús.
Jesus, Jesus, salud.
Um, no, brother. Like I lived in Spain for a year, and my brothers are from Madrid,
I
and they
know.
don't even speak a word of English. So your English for a Spanish person is amazing.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that, man. I get
Yes.
from what you have been saying previously. If I go and check that Nink is real right now, I would be embarrassed because, like, you know, we creators have this sense of like checking our work from the past year. You don't have to go back 5 years, and you're kind of embarrassed because like you will correct a lot of things, you will do different a lot of things, and you don't like it anymore. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like in that time, you are so proud of the work you did, but nowadays you think you can do way better, which is a guarantee of like you have evolved and you or your content is getting better.
Yeah.
And also, I'm jumping from topic to topic. I am here also to say like I hate the word content because content is something you can. I will use the word content in this podcast a lot of times, and I agree like we have to use it because we can understand each other with that word. But content is something you create just to fill some gaps, to keep going and to keep people entertained. But I would, romantically, I would love to think we are doing more than content, and we are doing. It's like art is a really big word for us, maybe, but something in between. So it's not just something you can do just to keep going. And
Yeah.
yeah, something I wanted to say. I hate the word. I hate the word content.
Man, I couldn't agree with you more. And I hate like the term content creator because it makes you sound so much like, not you specifically, but as a creator, it makes you
Yeah,
sound like an influencer or something. Like, because so many people like call themselves content creator, but they're just like influencers. Um, and I'm not shying away from using words like filmmaker or photographer's video maker or artist. Like
hmm.
we are artists. Like it, you can be a bad artist, but you're still an artist.
And we are a bad artist. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's not what
I
I'm
agree.
saying, but I mean like there's nothing pretentious or wrong or necessarily romantic about using the word
It's not.
artist.
It's
Um,
not.
and I agree. I don't like the word content creation or content. The problem is now like most of what we create as artists in the video making and photography industry is posted on social media, and so it is read as content. But I agree, man. It's a bit of a vulgar
Yeah, it is.
word. Yeah.
It is.
Um, so we met at Lowlands, and
Yeah.
I think you went to the games that year, didn't you?
Yeah, I was trying to, remember all those things. And I don't know about you, but it seems to me like when we met Lowlands was like part of another life. Like it was like 20 years ago or something like that. It was only three years ago.
It's
So
crazy.
I'm trying to be, faithful to what happened. But I think like my first competition was here in the Madrid Championship, which was held in Ciudad Real, a city next to Madrid, that year. And like months later, I was in Lowlands, and a few months later, I was in Madison, and I didn't know how that happened. I was lucky enough to be there with the guys from Training Culture, and I was like, I remember looking myself in the games, like, what am I doing here? I've been watching this like on TV, a lot of documentaries and streamings and all that, and finally and suddenly I was there enjoying those athletes with my own eyes. I was like in the front row of the media pitch, like seeing, I remember seeing Pat Bellner like 1 meter away,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe that, you know. And it's funny because like if you think about that, like it's like one of the main stages you can go, like this big competitions. And I think like people start seeing your content differently when you are in that kind of competitions. And I always tell myself and tell others like my content is not better because I've been in lowlands or in semifinals or in games or whatever. It's better because I've evolved, but it's not better because like you shouldn't see it differently because I've been given the opportunity to be in those big stages, you know. And
No,
that's kind of
100%.
unfair because there are a lot of media people that didn't have, they weren't lucky enough to go to these big stages because they weren't in the same spot as I were or whatever. But they are doing great content, and people see it differently because they've never been to that places, you know.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I don't know.
100%. And it's not it's not definitely not like a validation stamp to been to the games as a video maker or photographer, because like there's also guys that like have access to these competitions and they're not that
Yeah,
good, or
yeah,
not that good yet. Even me, like the first year I went to the games was in 2023, working for Krieger. And
I
even
remember.
then I'm like, and even then I was like, I wish I had like the level I have now back
Yeah,
then.
yeah, me too.
Because,
That's the same feeling.
bro, I look at my content. It wasn't bad or anything, but it's just like the colors were just like very dull and very basic. Like I didn't do much about color correction. I wasn't shooting S log. I was just like and like the I could make it up with like a cool edit and like some effects and music and everything. But even me back then, I didn't feel like my content was like at the level it should be. So definitely like being at this competition is definitely, it could be this or Rogue or Madrid or whatever. It's definitely not a testament of like how good you are or anything. You could be doing the smallest competitions and
Yeah,
and be amazing,
you're right.
and like I feel like that's what should happen more, is like give a shot to create to, even me I say creators, give a shot to artists and like video makers and photographers to create things, and not necessarily judge them based on like how big or small the events they went to. But I remember like at Lowlands, when I saw you going to the games, I was like, it is a preconceived image, right? I saw you going at the games, I was like, holy shit! I liked your creations way before you went to the games, but when you went there and I think I remember like a reel you did with Will Morad on
Ah,
the parallels.
you remember that?
Bro,
That's
I am
even myself, I don't remember.
I remember like content really well, like, and content from every single friend of mine. And you did a reel with Will Morad, like on the parallels and with like a cool music or something. And then him finishing at the finish line. And it's funny because I didn't know him back then, but now I know the guy because we worked together for
I
WFP.
know.
But I just loved what you were doing, and then you kept going. But tell me more, like just going back to like more the origins of things, and then we can continue like chronologically to where you are now
Hmm.
and what you've been through. But how did you discover photography, videography? Like, what's your background with that?
Okay, like for me, photography has always been a part of my life since I was a kid. I remember being in my parents' yard, like 10 years old, something like that, and a friend of theirs like came from the States, and I remember I was given a Kodak camera, and I just enjoyed time like photographing maybe some flowers or some dogs or whatever, and that was like part of my life, but just like a hobby. And meanwhile, I was like, this is a funny story because I'm not, I've never studied something related to photography or videography or something like that. I finished my student life. I entered college. I studied chemistry. Then I did like a master's degree. And last year, on 2024, I finished my PhD. So I'm a chemistry doctor right now.
No
I mean,
way!
that's crazy,
Felicidades!
but. Thank you so much, my friend. But in the past years, I've been doing both. Like, I went, I've evolved in my CrossFit photography kind of career, but also did, a lot of different areas related to photography. But and meanwhile, I did my PhD. So, I find like I loved doing research. We did a lot of cool stuff there in the lab. But it's just like I felt like I've never been so passionate about something that I was like with photography. So
Hmm.
I, promised myself I would finish my PhD, and then I would just be basically switching my life from that kind of lab cave work to traveling and photographing a lot of different stuff. And I'm really happy now I did that, because like, as I said, I love research, but now I wake up myself like in a Sunday, and I want to do this podcast with you, and I want to edit some pictures I did with my friend the other day, because he was like having a concert. I'm always editing for work, but I'm always editing because I love photography and videography. And
Yeah.
that's something that is really good, because I sense like a lot of people have their job or their work, and they don't love it. They can kind of like it maybe sometimes, but they are not really passionate about. And that's like, one of the luckiest thing that ever happened to me is like I'm really enjoying my work every single day. Obviously we have like some, rocks in the pathway, but generally, with an overview, I'm really, really happy with my life right now. So it was a good decision, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And when you started, like, what's like the link with CrossFit? Like, how did that start?
Yeah. So, one friend of mine back then, like built a CrossFit gym with another people, and he knew I was kind of into photography, so he proposed like I would, go there and take some pictures from like the opening of the gym. And then I started working in that CrossFit gym, and then came the opportunity. I think CrossFit Spain came to film one thing in that CrossFit gym, and then I started like doing some competitions with them. Then I was I came with to training cultures like headquarters back then to film some stuff. I knew some of them, then some of them were new also, and I don't know how it happened, but I went to Madrid Championship. I went to Lowlands, and you know how is this about? Like you start meeting people, and you start liking some, not liking that much some, and you build your own path. And I was lucky enough to be given like some opportunities like some people have never been given. So I'm grateful for that, and just started trying to do things like the way I want to do those things, not just
Hmm.
as you were saying in the beginning, that not always like following trends, just doing your own stuff. Obviously you have to adapt yourself to formats that are like kind of trendy or whatever. But I was I'm proud enough, I can say like my content is like recognizable in some way. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've always tried to do my thing, not let the way things I should do, because like trends are. I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm explaining myself as
No,
precisely I could, but
you make total sense, and I think that's what's the I think that's the hardest thing as a video maker or photographer in the industry, whether that's like the sports industry, but just in our industry in general, of like videography and photography, is to differentiate yourself and find your own touch and find your own style. I think it's really cool to reach a point where very quickly you're recognizable. Like, guys, if you check like Hector's Instagram, like, and then you'll recognize his pictures. Like, you have just a on the skin tones and like the smoothness of the image, and it's also very clear, but not, it doesn't have to be short, but it's still very clear always. And like, and you're also really good at, especially in your photography, at like catching moments that like people might not think of. And I think that's really cool and really rare in our industry. So no, we definitely recognize your style out there, whereas there's like a lot of photographers and videographers, like I said, I don't know if it's because they don't have the passion, or if I don't know if they just do this as a side hobby, but they don't really push the needle too much forward where like they reach like a good enough level or like a level where they can differentiate themselves from like other creators. But a lot of what's putting it being put out there is like it's bland. It's like, yeah, okay, you took a
Yeah.
picture, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, go
I
ahead.
appreciate your words, man. Your words. I was embarrassed because of my English. Now I'm embarrassed because of your words.
No,
I think if I wasn't passionate as I am with this kind of sport, or like our thing, which is photography and videography, you know, I wouldn't be doing the things I would be doing, because, like, if you're going to a competition and you're trying just to highlight the heaviest RM you can have, or PR, and just like having the perfect snatch, it's not about that. Yeah, people can see that in a streaming, but people cannot see like the tattoo he or she has here because of her mom or his mom, or people wouldn't be seeing like the expression on the face of the coach, or the audience, or so I think our job as a content creator, again, content creator, is just like, showing people what they cannot see from a streaming or from a TV, transmission. Because, like, I think content has switched from like a more objective kind of point of view to a more like showcasing the human story about the athletes, which is, I think, is cooler, because people
yeah,
are more interested on the human side than the in sports sides, maybe. I think
yeah,
it's, obviously we shouldn't obviate that, like, everything should be surrounding the sport, but I think, like, we should not think about athletes as like machines doing some stuff or some exercise. We should think about them as humans, and we should
yeah,
be like really respectful to tell the story in a good way,
yeah. I
so
agree.
yeah.
I agree, and I like the mix of both. Just quickly before we continue, I don't know if your like connection is good enough, but like your image is like um,
Yeah, I,
glitching
I,
often.
I'm honestly, I'm just 1 meter from the router, which is this.
That's
It
okay.
couldn't be like closer. And I
No,
don't
it's
have like
okay.
a cable connection, I don't know.
It's all
Maybe
good.
I'm seeing yourself freezing sometimes, but
Okay,
I don't
okay, yeah.
know
It's
what
all
else can
good.
I do, man.
The sound never breaks. It's just sometimes
Okay.
the image stops, but we're all
Yeah, I
good.
know. I'm
But
sorry
what
for
I
that.
was saying is, it's not your fault. All good. I just wanted to check. But what I wanted to say is that I like the mix of showing the human side and the behind the scenes, and also the cool epic side. I like the mix of the
Of
both.
course.
Like for example, there's a lot of creators that are really good at doing the hype stuff, and there's
Mm.
creators like you that are really good at doing the personal human things, right? But I love when there's a mix of both. I'm really, really late to the game, but I just started yesterday Drive to Survive,
Okay.
the F1
Yeah,
docu
so that.
series. Yeah. And I love that in that there's like the epic side of things where you have like the voiceover of the broadcast guy and he's talking about the race and like the epic moments and like the cool stuff, but there's also like breaks in each episodes where you see the F1 driver that is the focus of the episode. You see him interacting with his family, and you see him watching a game of football with his friends. Like this Carlos Sainz guy, like at home watching the football and like interacting with
Mhm.
his dad at breakfast and stuff like that. And I love the mix. I love the mix.
It
It's
is.
just
Yeah.
really, it's really hard and rare to get access to an athlete's like personal life and also the training like epic life in competition as well. Like,
Yeah.
because you'd have to literally like what the advantage that these like movie crew have for Netflix and stuff like that is that they get to follow these athletes all year round.
They live with
Not
them. Yeah.
only they live with them, not only in competition, but also like they get to go see their family, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm always so grateful when athletes let us come to their home and record. I
Man, I was
was
going to say the same thing. I have, like, some notes here for this podcast, and what I wanted to say is just like we've been lucky enough to have a sport in which, like, it's not like, for example, like football, or some like Formula One. It's just a few people get access, and that's it. Here with this sport, we have the chance, or we've been having the chance. I don't know if it's going to be in the future like that or not, But it's small enough, don't get me wrong, but it's small enough to be with them and to live with them and to really get to know these athletes. So we get to tell better stories because we have been closer than with a bigger sport. So yeah, that's the interesting thing.
No, I agree. And like, I was just with Ematal
Hmm.
in a really small town in Sweden called Växjö. And I was just so grateful that like her and David Schronke allowed me to be in there because I don't know about you, but me, my home, it's my safe space. It's my place of tranquility, of quiet and peace. It's my place where I get to be myself. It's my place where, like most
You
people
feel
don't.
protected. You feel, yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
and so I don't know how I would be having like a film crew or even just a video maker coming to my home and filming me when I'm like waking up in the morning, like eating my breakfast or whatever.
sure.
And I get that these athletes they have media obligations with the sponsors that they have, and it's part of the life of being a professional athlete. You're sponsored by a brand, and that brand will sometimes send a film crew to shoot some stuff, and it's part of the athlete life. But still, I always make sure when I go to these athletes' home, like, hey, is it okay if I put my bag there? Is it okay if I'm there? If there's a moment during the day where you'd like to be on your own, I can like step out a little bit. Like I always try to respect their space and um, their privacy.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like, I apologize in advance, but it's going to a safari. It's their environment, and you're getting to see these animals. I'm apologizing again, but you need to be respectful. I totally agree with you. Like, if I'm allowed to tell you a little story,
yeah,
I
go
I
ahead.
met I met Fabi, like months before the Lowland Showdown,
For
and
people
when
who
I
don't know, so you're talking about Fabian Beneto.
Yeah, sure. So I went to Lowlands, and training culture, had this like hotel in which we were staying. And when I arrived, everyone was there already. And I remember Mike telling me like, "This is gonna be your room." And I was staying with Fabi and Sarah, his girlfriend. And I was like, feeling a little bit uncomfortable because I know that he was competing. He was like trying to get his ticket. And I wouldn't I didn't really want it to be like a pain in the ass there, and like be in their intimacy and their privacy. But I remember from the beginning they were like so welcoming to me, and we were like having dinner together. And for me, this biggest story that I left and I didn't film back then was like seeing Fabi really really disappointed because Lowlands really didn't get him to a point that he wanted to be. And I followed him through the year. I filmed a lot of things from him with Julian, and we went to Berlin one year after that, and I stayed in the same room, not in the same room, but I stayed with Fabi and Sarah again. And I remember after the first day, Fabi was devastated again because like the day wasn't like it didn't go good for him. And I remember like talking to Fabi and Sarah too, because Sarah is one of the main support that Fabi can have in life. And she was telling him like he could do it, And in the end of that semifinals, he made it to the games, and it was like a really really big thing for me to be there with them, like seeing that in a first person point of view. So yeah, like getting to see things from these athletes, really close to their lives is like really like emotional sometimes.
Yeah,
It's not the distance you have from a streaming. It's just like living with them.
bro. Like
Yeah.
I remember, like I think Fabi's reaction when he qualified to the games in Berlin was one of the most. I have goosebumps just like talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Like it was the most genuine, most powerful and intense emotion I've seen in someone. Like he is so external in how he expresses his joy or his anger, and it's not a bad thing. It's just,
It's a good
oh
thing for us at least. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah. You,
remember.
you could see all the suffering he's been through, to made it to that point.
I
Yeah.
remember Caroline Visser, Cat
Hmm.
Video. She
Yeah.
made a really cool reel of him, and he was like, like he was crying, and like I remember also when he won. you made something when he, I think it was Dubai, and you made like a
Ah,
movie
yeah,
poster.
yeah, I did that. Like
Oh,
from Madrid because I wasn't there, but yeah, I did that because like
yeah,
I was
he was
watching the
like
streaming,
this.
like crying. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
like,
a funny story
you
because,
know,
like, I think the poster did mention something like the guy with nightmares, finally achieved his dreams, something like that. I don't remember.
yeah,
But it's funny because like Fabi has always had, this nightmares, like in competition and in his normal life, and he's always like kind of is a guy that is always like worried and and anxious about things, and finally get him to win this big competition in Dubai made us, like, everyone who knows Fabi, it was so emotional for him, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was really intense, and we were talking about you and me about getting the privilege of like getting having access, such close access to these athletes live compared to other mainstream sport. But I think in a way that, and we're really lucky with that. It makes us know the athletes so much more because let's just say instead of like us going to film with our little camera like this like to the athletes like hi I'm Marius or whatever, if instead it was like a Netflix film crew of 10 guys, it would be so much less personal. And and I don't think the athletes would open up as much, or and like
No,
I
they
think
won't.
we're so lucky to be these one man shows, right? Where we're not as threatening when we come in like to film content, and like and we create connections and even friendships with these athletes. And I think it's such a powerful thing, right? Like, but also it makes the content we create so much more powerful because we know them so personally. Just like me, I became really good friends with Mathilde Garnis. She's one of my best friends in the space. And guys like Guillaume Briand, and who also is my best friend now, and just these guys, and like Linda Caseman, who trains in my gym, and when she made it for the first time at the games last year, like I remember she came back to the gym and we all welcomed her with flowers, and like we were all of us like yeah, and like it was so intense because we see her train in the gym day in day out with the weight vest on the assault runner.
Yeah, you know the story.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just so intense. And I was trying to make a reel of her getting the acceptance of going to the games, but I was like,
Shaking, right? Yeah.
yeah, probably also because I drank 7 Nocos, but
That's not something we should know
who
about, right?
knows?
So,
Let's just say it was the emotion. But the problem is other content creators had this her like receiving like the ticket to the games like much better footage
yeah,
because
you can
mine
tell.
was
You can
just
tell.
I was just too
Yeah,
emotional.
same thing with Fabi. With Fabi, I was almost crying when, and I knew, I remember a guy telling me Fabi has just made it in the last spot to the games, and I knew that in advance, and I wasn't, telling anyone, but I was like almost crying before I told Fabi. Anyway.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I think this sport is really good. What I'm trying to do now is like expand a little bit in other sports, because my goal someday is to be a sports videographer, not just a CrossFit videographer.
Yeah.
I'm already kind of doing the fake it until you make it thing where it says sports videographer on my bio on Instagram.
Yeah,
Even
in your case, I gotta say, Mary, sorry to interrupt. Again, like you said, the same thing with my content. I'm not kicking your ass. This is your podcast. I don't want to feel like I'm just trying to give you like flowers, we say in Spanish. But I've known your work for a lot of years, and you started, like, I think you started more as a videographer than a photographer.
yeah,
And I remember us like talking a lot, like you were asking questions about photography. I couldn't ask, you know, a lot of them because I'm not the best photographer you can meet, but I've seen your game evolving a lot in photography, like photography wise, because you've been doing amazing videos for a lot of years, but your photography now is like in the point of like a really really clean and really spotless. So I
I
gotta like
appreciate that.
congratulate you for that, and also like I gotta not congratulate us for that, because like it's the opposite actually. I hate myself for choosing both. I hate myself for choosing photography and videography. I don't know if it's your case or not, but I think like whenever you're in a competition, I don't know if it happens to you, but I have to choose about like, capturing a photo or capturing that same moment in video. And it's
Yeah.
always like a fight inside you, and it's also like really difficult to carry maybe two cameras or like three lenses each time. And I always envy like people who have focused, only in photography or only in videography. But it's what came from the inside of us. We like to do both. I think it's a mistake, but I'm happy to go ahead with that mistake. Yeah.
First of all, thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, photography has been something that I just discovered because I was just tired of athletes asking me for pictures and me being so like just not being able to take one. I would literally like record and then go
A
back home,
snapshot.
take a snapshot and edit it in Lightroom, but it just looked so bad. um, and and at some point I was like, when I was hired by Krieger and I lived in Norway for 3 months, I had a playground and I was like, stop being stubborn. Like, no, I'm just a video maker. I will never be a photographer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you can always grow. You can always learn new skills. Like, and you know, you might not use photography as much as videography, but it's good to have that skill to be able to create good cover pictures or just stuff like that. Or if there's like a
Sure.
group photo that needs to be taken, at least you know how to do it. Um, and I remember I got a few advice from Anders Malm from Sweden, and I had 3 months where I was with these athletes every day in CrossFit Oslo, and I was like, might as well
You
take
can
this
do it.
opportunity to learn photography. And now it's actually, I'm really torn into like what's my favorite because I love photography
Yeah,
now.
me too.
And I have the same confusion and the same internal struggle with you when it comes to switching photo video, what to pick and everything. And also it's hard because I only have one camera body. I have my FX3 and that's it.
Okay.
So my goal this year is to get a second body where I can actually have the two and like switch. Because for now I go into mode and I roll the little
Switch it.
thing to photo and video, and it's just
Mhm.
so not practical.
It's not.
But I don't regret having learned both and wanting to do both because I think there's different ways to convey emotions and our sport
Yeah.
and sport in general, and it's great to have both skills, but it's hard. I
No,
agree.
I agree. I mean, I was only joking. Obviously, I would
Yeah.
continue to do both. And you were saying about like Anders help you to step up in your photography game, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things that can happen in this like mini world is like just learning from colleagues. I've been learning photography from a lot of content creators. I'm not as good as I am in photography in video, but I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from Julian, which is like someone that I really admired from so long.
Yeah.
I would really like us to put his Instagram name, because he's just only posting two things in his Instagram in his whole lifetime. But his content is like really amazing in terms of like really being able to tell the story and to make people feel like really emotions.
Yeah.
Um,
No, Julian
but-
is just such a good filmmaker. um I remember I
and
met
you
him
can
at
say
one of
he's a filmmaker. You cannot say he's a content creator. You can
he is
truly honor
definitely a
the words
filmmaker.
with yeah, filmmaker.
Yeah. And I remember I met him at Wadapalooza and we talked a little bit in 2023. And then I just kept seeing at competition and stuff like that. And I always, I know I just don't understand why he doesn't post his stuff. Um, have you had conversations with him about it? Because for you guys who don't know, I'm going to butcher his name.
Yeah,
Julian.
is by, and I don't know how to say it in English, like the low
No,
bar.
his last name, is it Gorowitz?
I'm not selling that in Polish because I'm not like Grochovic. I don't know. It's something related to peace. He told me once,
Okay, but his Instagram, like he just doesn't post, and it's such a shame because he's such a good. I know he posts stories, but
yeah,
he
two
has
posts.
only two posts. You can't see, um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I want to have him on the show as well. He's in my list
you
of
should.
filmmakers and people I want to have on. And that's why I do this show as well. We were talking earlier, like I just want to have conversations and give a voice to creators because there's a lot of podcasts that come out with athletes and people from the industry, but Carlos Baum gave me this idea when he created his own the content lab, and then he got super busy and like couldn't really continue posting episodes. And I was like, oh, that's a shame because I would have loved to learn more about this creator and this creator and this creator. And at some
Mhm.
point, I was like, hey, you know what? Why not? And I asked him if he was okay me doing that because it was his idea, kind of. Even though like there's nothing, it's a podcast, but and I just wanted to, I'm also getting busy with the WFP, and it's getting harder and harder to like record these episodes. And there's some creators that I really want to have on, but they can't because they're busy as well. So, but I'm so happy I get to like have conversations with guys like you and yeah, man. So then you started like progressing in the CrossFit space and shooting CrossFit, but what's because I remember there was a point where you had like kind of a gap. Was that because you were studying your PhD?
Not at all. I had this gap, like I think it was like in posting actually. I still like keep doing things for brands or competitions. I just didn't want it to do that much competitions through the year because it, made me travel a lot, and I wasn't in that point in my life. I want to travel, but I don't want to be out, 10 months in a year. But I experienced like a shift between like being in the beginning. We always worry about like growing and likes and followers or whatever. And I went, I got to a point in which I wasn't worried about likes and followers and doing things I should do anymore. So I wasn't feeling like posting each week or each day. So I just, kind of stopped that, and I was focusing also like in other aspects of photography. I wasn't only shooting CrossFit. I was, shooting other sports or like weddings or fashion things or whatever. I have other accounts. I have countless accounts of Instagram. And I wasn't feeling anymore like posting each week and keeping that rhythm, and always being worried about like, would people like this, or would people like prefer other things or whatever. But nowadays I don't want my account to be dead anymore. I want to, relieve that and keep posting a little bit more, just the
Yeah,
things I like, obviously.
yeah,
But I think we've always experienced that.
yeah. I think you're bringing up a point that is important to maybe talk about in this episode is the mental health aspect of doing what we do, and also the physical health aspect where we travel a lot, we're a lot on the roads, and we're expected to do things, and like we have the work we do for clients, and then we have the stuff we do for ourselves for our own page, and it's a challenge, and sometimes you can get caught up into like, oh, the likes and the follows, um and because I think a lot of something I talked about actually with other people in the CrossFit media space, like journalists like Lauren Khalil or um, these guys who are also in the media industry but not video makers, but I think we can relate to as well, is it's really hard to stay relevant in an industry, and there's different ways of staying relevant, and I feel that sometimes you can get caught up in the wrong ways of staying relevant, and that can come through like forcing yourself to post stuff that you don't really especially necessarily think it's worth posting, but you want to post because otherwise people are going to forget about me, or you're going to do everything like take half pay and just travel payment just to be at this event because it's cool to be seen at this event.
Sure.
And I've reached I think I'm not as far as you, but I've reached a level of like wisdom where And also, I've worked hard enough now where I have a position at WFP and clients who trust me, and that gives me an income that allows me to be more selective with where I go and how much I accept in terms of like other jobs. But for example, last year I was like, Dubai, I'm not
I
going.
can do it. Yeah.
I'm not going. And then I'm not as and it's normal to go through stages when you're starting to not necessarily be desperate, but wanting to be at all these events and posting a lot to stay relevant, and like it's normal as well to just like grow your portfolio and your image, and for more people to know you, to start like but I think also in terms of income, there's a limit of what how much you can make in the functional fitness space, and I think it's smart to like think about doing other things as well and not get caught up in this bubble.
Yep. Totally agree, man. I mean, it's just like it's a switch from the FOMO to the JOMO. Is a word that I learned because I knew FOMO, but I didn't knew this joy of missing out. And it's sometimes,
I love that.
really, yeah, it's sometimes really good to we've been talking about Julian. He's only posted like two posts in his Instagram, and he's really relevant. So you don't need to post that much. You just need to do your own thing and to not be following each time, someone's rules. So it's sometimes like good to miss competitions or to miss events and to see things with a little bit of perspective. Also, I think it's a really useful things for us is just to move to another area to film, one fashion film, for example, or one wedding, or to film another sports. So because like you can learn things to bring again to the functional space.
Mhm.
So we gotta keep connected with some other worlds of content creation, sorry, to keep our game evolving,
Yeah,
for sure.
and I think it's good to keep that distance, so then when you come back to film functional fitness or CrossFit or whatever, then you bring back something you learned from those other experiences. What I love to do, and I think you like to do that as well, is like also take influence from movies. I'm a big movie nerd, as you can see. I love cinema. Like I went to film school, and I grew up with parents who were DVD collectors. So instead of like renting them or borrowing them from friends or burning the CDs, they would
Yeah, I
just buy
remember.
them because they liked having the physical DVD. So at home we have like 700 DVDs.
That's impressive.
And so I grew up with movies, and whenever I lose myself a little bit in content creation, and I'm a bit of in a creative rut, I stop creating for a while and I just watch movies, and I get inspired by my favorite filmmakers, or you know and I think it's good to take that distance sometimes. For
Of course.
Jillian, I think it's really cool that he doesn't post anything and still like people know his work. I just think it's a shame that it's not shown to the world more.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
We've been talking about that like several times. Julian is. I'm lucky enough to say Julian is one of my closest friends in the space, and I think with him it is the thing that he's not always like he's always thinking like his job is not good enough to be posted, which is ridiculous because his work is one of the best works in filmmaking I've ever seen in the CrossFit space. And it's just like he doesn't feel like it's good enough to be posted, which is
Yeah.
funny, but yeah, that's
And
his
like
thing.
I don't know, I don't want to sound mean, but I don't think his work is the best in the CrossFit space. I think it's the best in his genre, right? Because I think it's a bit hard to say I'm like the best or something, that like, because each person has their own
Yeah,
style,
of
right?
course, of course, I
And
agree with that.
and in the cinematic film side of the content creation in functional fitness, I do agree he is the best at that.
Yeah, I mean,
At
it's
least,
obviously it's ridiculous to say someone is the best like in this because like we always like have different styles and we cover different aspects of the sports. But it's just
Yeah,
like, whenever you see someone's work in the content creation space, you feel like some of them may resonate more with you and make you
yeah,
feel more emotions, and
of
others
course.
just you don't like them as much. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying
just
he's the best. I'm just saying, like,
you
I
think
always feel, yeah, yeah.
like
I
it
always feel
touches your
like,
heart.
yeah, it's whenever you see like some reel or whatever, and you feel like, okay, this is okay, but I've seen this million times. And if you see like this videos he's making, and you feel like and somehow like it resonates with you and make you feel like, as you were there, and you can know the athlete and you can feel the same emotions, and you're like, you're sad or you're nostalgic and you're hyped or you're whatever, and you can feel
Yeah,
those emotions through Julian's content, and you can feel like really hyped, and you want to take Seven Monsters seeing your reels, because like it's impressive, the amount of things you can really mix up in one reel, which I admire, because I wouldn't be able to do that. And it's always like, for me, the best ones are the ones that make you feel a lot of emotions in the same,
I
in a
agree.
short amount of time.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah,
And
like,
Julian is definitely one of the best at that. And like in his genre, he's just so good. And it's a shame that he has maybe this confidence or imposter syndrome issues, and he doesn't post more. But it's hard to be a filmmaker and be vulnerable and like showing what you create and be confident in that. It's really really hard.
yeah,
But for example, someone that does a little bit more in the cinematic, like Julian, but that posts more is Bennett Looper. Um,
he does.
and Bennett
One of the
Looper,
greatest also, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But he just at some point he just was like, "Fuck it, I'll just post more of myself. I'll just post more of this and that." And like his content, like the quality of his content grew so much when he just started posting and just putting himself out there and be vulnerable. And yeah, but I Julian is great what he does for Velites and
Hmm.
like everything on the side. Like I think they're really lucky to have him create for them. And I'm really looking forward to like the growth of that brand, to see where it goes, because it's its own unique thing, Velites, right?
It is.
So it's exciting. But coming back to you, like now, where are you at now with your content creation, and what are you looking forward to, and like where would you like to go? Like what's your current status?
Yeah, for me now, I've been really lucky in the past months, because I've worked together with Julian again with Pelites. We did like the shoe campaign. We did like five different videos with the shoes, and we got like the freedom to be focusing more in the human aspect that we were talking about, and to be more creative, not just like doing things that usually brands do. We've done like the clothing campaign that Benitez is going to release in the next month.
Hmm.
So for me, it's like, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of different opportunities in my life in the functional space.
Yeah.
But now I really want to, start studying color grading for video. But not only in the technical aspect, just to be able to tell better stories, not to be like, doing this impressive videos and to have a lot of likes. I'm actually more focused on like, being able to tell a story from like a true point of view of like, so the main person in that video can see the video after, and really feel it honored their story.
Yeah.
So video making is really a challenge for me. I'm like more, I think I'm better in photography, if you can say that. So I really want to keep learning. And also, as you said, I want to move to another, sports, maybe athletics or basketball or football, I don't know. But I want to do to know other sports, to know other athletes, and to really be privileged enough to witness those stories in a first person point of view.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's I think it's just at first you can be a little bit set in your ways with like what you want to create, and then you learn that if you try to expand a little more and put yourself outside the comfort zone, then you become such a better creator. Like for me, the current challenge is learning how to proper shoot and color grade S-Log. I have for so many years not used S-Log very stubbornly,
Me too.
Just
Same thing.
just just because like the color grading is such another level, and it's so time consuming, and but on the other hand, like it's just the best quality, right? And like I'm done with using like sharp mask or not having as much freedom with my color grading or my brightness and stuff like that. And slug really gives you that freedom. The hardest thing for now with me and slug is um, just lighting, and just like
Exposing,
when
right?
exposure, yeah, exposing my shots properly in S-Log. So I have like the X-Log, like on my display, I have like the display assist,
Hmm.
which can help. But for now, sometimes a lot of my shots can be very noisy because my ISO is too high and stuff like that. So it's definitely like a learning process. But I've been learning that you have so much more freedom with color grading and
Yeah,
everything when you shoot S-Log. So that's my challenge, and creating more cinematic content, like something I did with Emma Tal recently.
I saw that.
More of that. And I but then I'll see a reel of Josie or BC Visions, and I'm like, fuck, I also want to do this.
Yeah, I know, I know. But actually, I gotta say, I think you can do both because you have been proving a lot of years that you can do this, hyping videos. But I saw the content that you did with Emma and other athletes, and you can also like feel like there's a human side from that. So I think you're like really versatile in terms of like you can do both actually.
That's sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm trying,
I
man.
think
But
so.
it's an exciting journey. And bro, like, so what's next for you? Like, are you gonna be at some events? Like, I look forward to work with you again.
Yeah, I don't know yet, but I might be in the semifinals in the Spanish one in the French Throwdown.
Mm-hmm.
I was also being asked to go to the games, but I have like I also film weddings. I have
Mm-hmm.
like I think it was one in Italy, one
August.
in France. Yeah, and in August one of my best friends is getting married, so I gotta be here in Madrid. So I cannot go to the games this year. But yeah, I'm looking forward also to see this World Fitness Project events. I would love to be in one of them and to know like what's the new things they are bringing to the sport. And I'm curious to be in a lot of places. I'm just like not in the point of my life in which I would love to be traveling 10 months or in 11 months a year.
Yeah.
But some specific points of the year I've loved to keep being present in this functional space that we've created. And yeah, of course, you keep
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. Well, would be sick to have you, for example, at I'm just thinking about it, in Copenhagen for a finals at World Fitness Project. Let me work
I
on
will
that.
I
But
will text you.
but yeah, like one of our photographer for tour event one, David, you might have met him, Shutterwad.
Yeah, yeah, I met him,
Yeah,
of course.
he does such good photography, and he's gonna be our photographer for
That's
all
cool.
tour event except the one in August, because he's also shooting wedding.
Okay, okay. Fucking weddings.
Yeah, but it's so much money though.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
uh, of course you do it for like passion as well, but like wedding season
No,
is like
it's
that's what pays rent. Like,
yeah, it's always like it's more about paying rents, honestly. People are spending way too much in weddings, and we're lucky enough again, like friends of mine built this videography for filming weddings company. And we were traveling last year to the Hamptons in New York. We were traveling twice to Mexico for weddings, Italy, Greece, a lot of places.
mhm.
And it's just like another world. There's people that have a lot of money and they are spending way more money than even they have in those weddings and in big castles or in big like beaches for themselves. Or it's just
Yeah,
it's another level in comparison to the money that we have in the functional space.
yeah, for sure. There's a couple of questions that I always like asking people. The first one is, you might have heard it in a lot of interviews, but what's like advice you would give to either your younger self or someone that would start in this space?
It's always weird for me to be in a position to give advice but if you're asking me that, I would say to myself or to the ones that are starting right now to really be themselves. I know it's like a typical thing you would say to anyone, but for like creating photography or videography, I think it's really important to differentiate yourself from the things that have been done. When I started myself, I always wondered because, like, when you see like football photography or videography here in Spain, football is really popular. You would always see like a really objective kind of perspective. You can see the player is frozen, is like framed okay, but you cannot see art in there. People were not creative when they were shooting football, for example. So I started like my photography game, like trying to add something new and to be more creative with that, not only showing the main thing that was happening, just to add a little bit of art in that. So I think like the main advice will be like, don't be afraid of including new perspective. Don't be afraid of including new musics, for example. Like I remember I did a video with Gabi Migala in Mallorca that I added some Latin music, and then I used classical music for other videos. And I think that this is a really bold move. It's not because I did it, but it's also like
I
good to
love when
have
you
some fresh air.
I love when you did of Adrian Munweiler with a Elvis Presley song.
Yeah, that was in Bilbao. He always
And
remembers that. Yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
it's
I
that's
was I
those things
was
are you need to be bold with that kind of things.
yeah, but I was with him in Mallorca a couple of months ago because I was shooting Anais, and he was telling me he still remembers that reel to this day, and that's like the content that he loves because it's so different. But I think what you said is great advice, and I think you don't have to be high in the game or to be like the best of the best or whatever to give advice. I think everybody can like receive advice from anybody. Like we all have experience that we can share
Of
with other
course.
people, no matter how successful or not we are. So I think what you
Mm.
said is really great advice to just stay authentic and like don't be afraid to put yourself out there to give different perspectives. Like sometimes I think like if you put the creativity that you have or Julian has or whatever in mainstream sports,
That would be lovely for us at least.
like
Yeah,
you see it in some documentaries, but like most Netflix documentaries, they all look the same. The Drive to
yeah.
Survive, the Last Dance was pretty good. I liked the Daniel Brandon Energy documentary with Rad, um, but it's still a face
Feels
cam
the same.
interview
Yeah,
with a film effect that shows pictures of them as babies.
yeah.
And I did this with Emma Tell. Like I didn't reinvent the wheel,
Which
but
is good too, but
it's just hard to make these documentaries without making them look like all documentaries.
yeah, yeah. I know, man. I know. That's
um,
also if I'm allowed, I would, it's always about like giving advice to the people that are starting, and I would love to, if I'm allowed to give advice to the people that have started a long, long way ago, because like we tend to make ourselves like a really, it's not selfish, but we tend to gatekeep a lot. And I think one of the most beautiful things you can do is like really to share your experience with other creators. Doesn't matter if they have been in the game like for 10 years or they are starting right now. And I think like it's a weak kind of sense to not share with people. Obviously we all have our secrets for editing or to for shooting, but I think it's not making like yourself worse, or it's not making yourself weaker if you share. Is the opposite thing. So we should
yeah,
always try to help others and to be generous with that, rather than gatekeeping and being selfish, of
yeah.
course. So that's advice I would love to give to someone that is like really in a high level right now.
I agree, and like I got moments where I asked advice to other photographers to learn, and like one day Carlos Baum even asked me advice for like videography, like, and I think it's good to exchange these things and learn from each other and share with each other like the experience we have. I think, but just to be the devil's advocate and see both sides of the story, I think what can lead some creators or filmmakers or whatever to gatekeep some things is because a lot of other creators asking for these tips, they they ask you to give them everything on a silver platter.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
And
feel
I
that too.
think and I think that's why some people, and I have done it myself, gatekeep things. It's like, I don't mind giving you tips on how to expose your shot, or giving you some tips on like how to maybe
Editing,
get
maybe, or
access,
yeah.
yeah, or get access to an event or whatever. But I can't just like teach you everything, you know. And the
Yeah, of
problem is,
course.
a lot of creators, instead of just asking you for a few tips or whatever, and then making their own lemonade, no pun intended, they just want everything to be given to them.
Yeah, I
And
feel
you
you.
know, I think it's what creates this gatekeeping. Like, I remember a guy that gatekeeps a lot is Brandon PC Vision. I used to like DM him a lot, asking him about like what camera he uses and like how he does this or that. He never answered me, always left on scene.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
mean, you
there's
should
a
have like a personal relationship with those people, at least knowing them from like some competitions to really be bold to ask,
asking.
a few tips,
Yeah,
because you shouldn't ask if you don't know the guy. But
yeah,
between us that we already know each other, I don't see yourself like as a rival to me. We can work
no,
together. You can work in some events, I can work in some events. I think there's work for all of us, and we
yeah,
shouldn't be afraid of, this guy is stealing my work and this guy is trying to copy my style, because like honestly, these days you can find a tutorial for doing like whatever effect you want to do.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't think we should be afraid of sharing a little bit at least
yeah.
with our colleagues. Yeah.
I agree with you what you just said. We shouldn't see each other as like enemies or rivals. I think it's so stupid. Um, you know, we all have our own clients. It's not like we're trying to steal someone else's client. And sometimes I've done work for a client that is usually making content
Calling
with
someone else. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's okay. Like, I did something for frog rips, and like there's a ton of other guys who've done stuff for frog rips, and like, but we shouldn't like just fight and be enemies and stuff like that. So I agree. So I think there should be a balance between not sharing anything and
And sharing
sharing
a little bit.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something I ask everyone is, yeah, some advice you could give, and I think it's great advice. And another thing I like to ask is, if you can think of something, um, what is something you wish more people knew about our jobs?
About our jobs. Okay. Yeah, I think like a lot of people know that, but not all of them. It's just like I think a lot of people in your podcast already, told something about you about this or similar like this. It's just like we're exposing our work, and we need to do that because we are getting new clients because they can see our work in social media. But it's always hard to like show our work because we feel like we are in an exam all day, you know. So we get to see like it's not like trustworthy to feel like your content is getting better because you had like a lot of tons of like in one reel you posted, and it's also not good to feel your content is getting worse because some reel or some photo carousel didn't work as good as you planned. So it's the sense of like you're getting an exam and evaluation each day. That's hard for us to really mature in our brains and really not worry about that as much as when we worry when we are starting. So that process about like not caring too much about what people think about what you're posting is really tough, and it makes us crazy sometimes, but yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
yeah, I
it.
agree. It's some people don't realize like sometimes the pressure we can feel from like, yeah, constantly being judged for, you know, what we post. And also another thing I would say as well is like, and it's the same for athletes as well, it's like, it's not because we're not posting that we're not still working,
Yeah,
you know.
I
Like, for
agree with that.
example, my friend Guillaume Briand, he hasn't done a lot of competitions since semifinals last year because he had some injuries, and he decided to focus on recovery and also like stuff. But and so a lot of people thought he was retired,
Yeah,
but
that's the thing
no.
nowadays. I think in all areas, not only in our work side, we disappear for 1 month and people think you're dead, and
Yeah,
that's a curse with social media and the times
yeah,
we're living in these
yeah.
days.
maybe like I'm really happy to see Fabi in a high level comp again in Mayhem
Me
right
too.
now.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
He's like
I
living the dream again.
yeah, I saw that, and Sarah as well. Like she's the best supporter, and I see her like everywhere. I think he's it's so good to see him with her, like being such like teammates all the time, and her
Yeah,
following him and his
it's
dreams. And
lovely.
I don't know them as personally as you do, but it's good. It's nice to see, and I'm happy to see Claudia as well. So we have the French and the Spanish in the
Joining,
U.S.
defending
Yeah,
Europe.
exactly.
So good.
But man, we've reached an hour 11 minutes. I could
Impressive.
talk with you and creators in general for so long. I love having these conversations, and that's why I want to have this podcast just to give a voice um, and show different perspectives. And I'm really honored that you took some time of your day to come talk with me.
I'm the one that is thankful for being here and chatting a little bit with you. I'm so happy to, finally did this because I was kind of nervous. My English is not gonna be like really good. I'm not gonna say the things I planned to say, but it was a chill conversation. I hope people enjoyed some things we said. And of course, like I wish to see everyone in the competition floor.
Yeah, it's I look forward to see you again, man. And your English was perfect, and you were great. And I don't want to throw myself flowers, but people have a tendency of feeling quickly comfortable with me. So I always say like, hey, it's chill. We're just gonna have a
It's chill.
conversation. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Thank you so much, Maris.
Yeah. Thank you so much, bro.